It is now time to talk about and try to explain the ending of Joker 2 and how it's not really a ending per se, more of a rebirth of the Joker. Now, yes, Arthur Fleck is obviously dead, but I don't think that's exactly the end of it. So let's talk about that ending now that I've seen it for myself. So quite obviously, we are going to talk about the ending of Joker 2 or Folie in this video. I did do a spoiler-free, 10-minute review where I literally try not to spoil anything, and I think I do a good enough job while conveying how I feel about the film. This isn't so much of a spoiler-filled review as there's not a whole lot to really spoil outside of really the ending and give you guys my honest thoughts, seeing it for myself, seeing how it unfolds, and what goes on. So in case you missed it, in the film, Arthur and Joker are on trial as potentially different people. And by the time we get to the ending of the film, it's made very clear by Todd Phillips that this is a film and an ending that is the anti-incel. Todd Phillips does not want those people to idolize Joker because Joker should not be idolized. That's like the core of the film, which I think to a degree works, but as I talked about in my spoiler-free review, some of it falls very short. Well, in those closing moments of the film, like the last sequence that really unfolds, here's what happens. So throughout the film, we see Lee pushing Joker to become the Joker she fell in love with, but he's not that. He reveals that that person is just a fantasy, and that he's the one who murdered the people. Lee is broken, heartbroken, horrified by this, because to her, that's not who she fell in love with. She ends up just storming out of the courtroom with Joker and many other supporters who were there, who were idolizing Joker, looking up to him, praising what he did, realizing, yeah, it's kind of a facade. It was a completely different thing. And then when the verdict is reached, the bomb that goes off, we see that Arthur is freed by two of his loyal subjects, devoted followers, if you will, whatever. And he runs off. And he just kind of goes off and reunites with Lee. And he then begs her to join him to run away. That this isn't the life that he wants. He never wanted that. He's not the character that's idolized. And instead, she rejects him, the idea, the fantasy that was him, the fantasy that she had for him. And she's so heartbroken that Arthur decides to turn himself in because he realizes maybe he screwed up. And maybe, just maybe, he set people on a wrong path. Once he's in lockup again, we see that a relatively young inmate, I believe his name was Ricky. I think that's what it was. I only saw the film once, so I might have missed it. He approaches Arthur and he tells him a joke. And then he says, "You get what you effing deserve," before repeatedly starting to stab Arthur. It is at this point that Joker is laughing pretty much like what you would describe as a complete lunatic, where he then takes the knife and does the whole Heath Ledger Joker look to himself. And obviously, there's a lot of social commentary to unpack here, a lot of stuff to look into, a lot of stuff to kind of take away from this. Obviously, it feels like Rick, while it's not stated explicitly, that he's sort of taken on the mantle of Joker, as well as Lee, as well as all the followers that left the courthouse, that they're gonna make sure that the Joker that they perceive as their hero is the person to idolize that they always looked up to. And it's obvious Todd Phillips was a little disgruntled and probably confused as to why many people believe that Joker is the good guy. Again, there was a part of that, so you can tell that this is directly commentary against that while also not leaning fully into it. And I don't know if that's WB mandate or whatever, but to me, it definitely feels like Phillips was like, look, I got to get away from this. And he talked about it, the whole incel thing and all that. And it's a very interesting way to end the film where, quite obviously, I think most people suspect this is not the end. You know? You know? Like, they leave it open. Sure, it's not Joker 3, but the Jokers or Lee Quinn, that can happen.